Beneath Moonlight's Embrace. Chapter 1. Under the Silver Moon. The quiet town of Willow Creek was a place where time moved at a gentle pace, where the most stirring events were often whispered about in hushed tones over steaming cups of coffee and crumbly pastries. I preferred it that way. The predictability, the comfort in knowing what to expect each day, each month, each year. As a librarian, my world revolved around dusty pages and muffled voices within those four walls. But on this particular evening, amidst the annual Summerfest celebration, something peculiar occurred. Amidst the riot of colorful tents and laughter, I caught a glimpse of him. Ethan, his eyes scanning the crowd with an intensity that made my pulse quicken. Our paths collided unexpectedly in front of the bookstall, his hand brushing against mine as we both reached for a vintage novel simultaneously. Apologies were exchanged, but it was too late. He had already seen me. In that fleeting moment, I felt a jolt akin to when characters first meet on the page. The promise of a story yet to be written. As dusk descended and lanterns flickered around us, Ethan suggested an impromptu walk under the moonlight. His words were laced with an unfamiliar cadence, as if he'd plucked them from a tale that only he knew by heart. I agreed, not daring to question my sudden willingness to step away from the familiar routine of festival food and games. The night air carried an enchantment as we strolled along the riverside, where the water lapped against the shore with a soothing melody that seemed designed for our conversation. His curiosity piqued mine. There was a depth in his eyes I found hard to read, yet intriguingly opaque. Ethan spoke of distant lands and stories untold, weaving tales as deftly with words as if they were threads on a loom. His voice was like the rustle of leaves in autumn. Soft yet profound. My own stories seemed insignificant by comparison, those of forgotten novels shelved at the library. Yet there we were, walking together, as though the town itself had orchestrated this meeting. "Your eyes are what drew me to you," he said, a smile tugging at his lips before fading into contemplation. "Like sapphires in moonlight." The comparison sent a shiver down my spine. Few people noticed such details about me, least of all myself. I couldn't fathom why this stranger's observation struck so deeply. "I've never been called beautiful before," I admitted with an awkward laugh. "Sapphires are rare. Perhaps that makes them even more extraordinary then." His gaze lingered longer than necessary as he continued, "I'm Ethan." Chapter 2. Whispers in the Dark. Ethan's invitation arrived in a note slipped through my door the following morning. An invite for a secluded boat ride under starlight. I accepted with a flutter in my chest, knowing it was reckless to step away from solitude but too late to change course now. As we pushed off into the river, the water reflected the sky above like polished silver. The rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull and the weightlessness of being adrift on an uncharted sea created a sense of freedom I hadn't felt since childhood summers spent on my grandparents' lake house. Our words meandered between tales of books and dreams, the boat swaying gently to the current as we shared glances and hushed laughter. Ethan's fingers traced patterns in the water, a gesture both meditative and inviting. When he spoke of adventure, his eyes shimmered with an unspoken longing that resonated deeply within me. I sensed that beneath this polished exterior lay a man who knew how to navigate unseen currents, not unlike those waters. My own tales, hidden away like old manuscripts, began to stir in my mind. Stories of love and loss, hope and heartache. Each word whispered in the breeze. "I've always been drawn to people with stories untold," he said, as if reading my thoughts. "I believe they hold worlds within them. We traded more tales under the canopy of stars, our conversations weaving a tapestry of shared secrets. Ethan's hand brushed against mine, sparking an awareness I couldn't ignore. It was then that our eyes met fully for the first time, their depths mirroring a silent understanding. Our lives were books we hadn't read yet, but yearned to be turned. His lips parted as if to speak. Instead, his gaze returned to the night sky. The boat drifted closer to shore with each passing moment. Ethan's fingers grazed my skin once more, sending shivers through me. He rose from his seat and approached me slowly, the only sound being the creaking of the wooden vessel against its moorings. "Lila," he breathed close, his breath a whispered promise. I stood as well, our faces drawing closer with an unspoken consent. Our hands touched, fingers intertwining as if by mutual consent. "I know you're drawn to books because they offer escape from life's chaos," he said softly, yet the distance between us shrunk. "But in your eyes, I see a world more enticing." Ethan leaned in, his lips brushing against my earlobe. A warm breeze on a moonlit night. It's not just the tales inside them that captivate you, it's the ones living within the hearts of those who read. My breath hitched as he stepped closer still. I felt his breath against my neck before our lips finally met in a tender kiss, light as the first leaflet falling from autumn trees. It was a promise and a warning all at once. A taste of possibilities yet to unfurl. We parted with promises for the next night, beneath another moon's embrace. Chapter 3. The dawn's soft embrace. I found myself waiting by the dock just before dusk on that fated day, Ethan arriving with an air of confidence I'd never seen in anyone before. He guided me onto the boat, the familiar creaks and groans of wood reassuring us both. As we drifted toward open waters, the stars above our heads swam in a riotous dance across the sky. We spoke little, hands entwined as we navigated the narrow waterway, the world around us muffled by the rhythm of the oars against the boat's hull. In that magical silence, Ethan's hand found mine with purposeful deliberation, fingers intertwining once more. Our eyes met, unspoken promises hung in the air, carried by the night breeze. I'd never known someone so attuned to the moon's whispers. As we ventured further from land's edge, he pulled me toward him and pressed his lips against my temple, sending shivers down the length of my body. Our first kiss had set this course. Now it was merely a matter of whether the currents would carry us forward or pull us back to shore. Ethan guided me into an embrace that spoke of tales lived and longing dreams. As dawn broke on the horizon, casting shadows across the water, we found ourselves in a quiet cove, surrounded by ancient pines watching over our sanctuary. "I never imagined I'd find someone who shares my love for stories within lives," he whispered amidst gentle lapping of waves against the shore. "You are my heroine, Lila." Our lips met once more, then again, as if trying to encapsulate all we felt within these few precious moments. Ethan removed a small book from his pocket and read me an untold tale. One penned by hearts that beat within us both. "I think it's time for your story to unfurl," he whispered, pages fluttering in the light wind. The sun's rays danced along the page as if beckoning us toward our own journeys. We returned ashore with a newfound understanding. Tales had found each other on this moonlit night. Now they'd have their chance to flourish. And so we embarked into an adventure penned for two souls, where words became kisses and pages turned by heartbeats.